And we're back. Welcome to Do It Yourself Music Appreciation show. We're three old friends, myself, Benny, my boy Gary, my boy Dion.
Yo.
We each week one of us picks an album that we love, and we listen to it and then reconvene and discuss it and appreciate it. It's pretty simple program, but we tend to nerd out extensively on hip hop music. Glad you guys are listening. It's funny, I was thinking about it. This show, it's not a review show, right?
Right.
You're not. I hope you, at this point, our listeners understand. You're not tuning in to find out whether or not you should be listening to these albums. For everyone, our answer is a resounding yes. You should be listening to these albums. We hope that you stick around to the end of the episode when we announce our next album, and I think the way this is designed is you should at least have heard it once before you start listening to us nerd out extensively. So last episode, Gary so awesomely picked IGOR by Tyler, the Creator. Came out in 2019.
2019, yeah. Less than a year old.
The newest album we've reviewed so far, which is pretty damn cool. And
not reviewed though.
Oh,
discussed.
Appreciated.
Appreciated.
Yeah. And I wondered if you guys would appreciate it. I knew that this album was designed for how I listen to music. This album's all about how it sounds, I think. It's less so, I think, about lyrics. In fact, I thought this might be a challenge, specific in particular to Benny. I was very curious how you would react to this album, because the lyrics don't really mean shit. Right?
They do. But we'll get to more later on. But Ben, yeah, what were we gonna say?
No, it's interesting, Gary. I admitted at the end of the last episode when you made this pick that I never heard this album, and there was a time when anytime a new Tyler album dropped, I was sure to listen to it several times, and I was a big Odd Future, Tyler the Creator fan, especially when they were like this big like counterculture movement that happened a few years back. And it was, I think, when Tyler released Cherry Bomb, it was the first album that it just might, you ever go into something thinking you're going to get something and then you get something else, and that product or whatever that experience is, even if it's not bad, because it wasn't what you expected, you're disappointed, and that's just part of human nature.
What's funny too, and I'll speak more, but Cherry Bomb, I kind of have the opposite view of Cherry Bomb is probably my second, if not maybe third favorite Tyler album. I loved that album. and it was very different though. It was very different than the previous things. So you're right about that.
And admittedly, in all fairness, right? And this is God's honest truth. I was in a shitty place in my life when Cherry Bomb came out. So perhaps
sure
the switch in gears that Tyler did on Cherry Bomb, I just wasn't ready for it, and I haven't listened to it since. You know what I mean? And it's interesting. I'm not like it wasn't like, oh, I'm never gonna listen to Tyler again. What happened is, Flower Boy came out, which got insanely positive reviews, and I said to myself, man, I got to hear that album. But life got in the way, and I never gave it a chance.
And that's the album for me, by the way. That's if Cherry Bomb is second, Flower Boy is third. If Flower Boy is second, then Cherry Bomb's third for me. Wolf is number one for me. Wolf is number one. But
Wolf is the album that I was like, holy shit, this guy's a genius. And so for the listener, quick history. If all you heard was IGOR, you might be shocked.
Yeah.
To go back and listen to Tyler's early work when he was in the Odd Future Collective.
Delighted.
That's very possible. His first headlines were of controversy, we'll put it that way. Very, very abrasive, aggressive, somewhat hate-filled lyrics.
Oh, no, he had misogynistic and homophobic lyrics early in his life, which is very interesting for how his life ended up turning out.
Certainly. He came out on the scene in a similar way that when we all first discovered Eminem in '99. A lot of gay slurs, a lot of misogynistic, rape culture lyrics,
and just shock value stuff. I mean,
Yep.
from his first commercial album, Goblin. If you've seen the video for Yonkers, it's just a video. It's a black and white shot video of him like on a white psych stage, rapping to camera, and with these black contact lenses, and he eats a cockroach in the middle of it. And then throws up the cockroach.
Like a big cockroach.
Like a big ass cockroach.
Massive,
that's the video. Like that's early Tyler. That's early Tyler in a nutshell. Just
that cockroach had a name.
That cockroach had a name.
Had kids.
That was lots of them.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I did not the reason I was a Tyler fan was not because of the shock value.
Same here.
Value, the shock value came along with the whole package that I don't get offended, to be honest, at lyrics. Like, I think art, whether it be movies or music, like art is art. And one of my favorite, just a quick example, one of my favorite rap groups back in the day was Jedi Mind Tricks, and they literally have a line. I'm Jewish. There's a line that said he's guilty like the Jews in the crucifixion of Jesus, and I'm like, damn. You know what I mean? But I still, that's like one of my favorite songs. So
it's like you said,
you know what I mean? Like, it's art. I don't take lyrics seriously, especially
to be honest, dude. I feel bad though about crucifying Jesus, but let's move on.
Yeah, I know. I should have voted against it.
I would have done it a different way this time.
So at any rate, I'm just saying, right? So like, there's a ton of artists,
sure.
Even my favorite artists in the world, like Wu-Tang or Royce or Doom, they all have lyrics that someone's gonna be offended at, right? It's just, and whatever. I just feel like sensitivity to lyrics. It went way too far, and now we're in a time in our culture where you do have to watch what you say, and much less of that type of music, at least in the mainstream. Tyler was mainstream for however counterculture he was a phenomenon, and music like that is not going to be released these days to the public masses.
And he got that, and he switched it up, and one could say for the better. I mean, one of the things about this album, it won a Grammy. It won Tyler the Creator. Tyler the Creator won the fucking Grammy for best rap album with this. And granted, I don't put too much stock at all into Grammys because that whole industry is just whatever. But still, it still should say something, right? I mean, that's
it was actually shocking to me, Dion, that he won, because I mean, if you look at what previously won the hip hop, Grammys, I mean, just really strange that Tyler's like truly out. This album, by the way, loved it, Gary. Like, such a.
I'm so glad, Benny. That's awesome.
Like, I knew Tyler, like, from all the reviews I read on Flower Boy, that Tyler just went, took a left turn and just kept going. Right? I knew
Dion and I were on the same page about this album, but I was concerned about, because Dion and I talked about Wolf, and the fact that I think Dion's kind of acclaim of I don't know, is that the right way to say this? Dion, giving props to those earlier albums got me into listening to Tyler in the first place. But I was, you was a little concerned about. I'm glad that you liked it, man.
Yeah, it was so cool, man. And like, I'll be honest, and I know a lot of people have said this. It's not even a rap album. It's like it's to me it's
something else.
It's an experimental R&B album that happens to have raps in it. Like it's synth driven, soul dance R&B music. You know what I mean? The track, I think, is like a 90s dance, like house music. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot here that is so not rap. It's not like you're not putting on a rap album when you're putting this on. It's an experimental art piece.
It's an art piece, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the lyrics that are in it, like there are a few songs in here that has some lyrical fire that are just like sort of buried in little pockets, and we'll get to that. But for the most part, any kind of like sort of words or lyrics in this album is it's just like poetry. It's almost like now I'm forgetting. Well, even though we're only 6 episodes in, there was an album a few weeks ago that we did that had an interlude, and the interlude is basically just it was just like a poet. It was just at the end of the day, it just seemed like just abstract poetry. I think it might have been. I think it was it was Outkast. It was AC Aliens, where I think there's one track where and it's just and that's kind of what I got out of this. It's like it's obviously got its hip hop tone, but that's not what the priority is. He actually goes on record and he says that, at least for this album specifically, he cared a lot more about beats and melody before lyrics. He actually said lyrics was his number 3
and that's,
priority.
That's clear.
Very clear. Very
from the get-go. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I remember watching an interview with Tyler, like maybe 2016, 2015. I don't know, before Flower Boy got released, and maybe even before Cherry Bomb. I'm not sure, but he said someone was like, you know, the interviewer was like, what can we expect next from you? And his answer is like, I don't think I want to rap. You know, he's like, I want to make albums where I sing and like, you know, more. And he even mentioned, I remember Stevie Wonder, like more inspired by Stevie Wonder than rap. You know what I mean? And like, I heard a lot of Stevie in this record, the melodies.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, some of these songs, at least, like the slower, more soul sounding music, it felt like they could have been on you know, a Stevie Wonder album from the 70s.
Part of that is the samples that he used were simplistic, but like all from like either the 70s or the 80s, at least for the most part. So I feel
that's
like
interesting. So there's samples on this?
Oh, there's samples. Yeah, there's samples.
Interesting. I really thought it was entirely synth and
he synths a lot of it, but yeah.
I think it stems from just Tyler playing piano, right? I think that's the very foundation of this of the music in this album. And then he was he did not care about the format of these songs and make them conform to any genre of music, which is why it doesn't feel like any hip hop album I've listened to. You know, it feels like it feels like some good jams, right? I'm just great. I'm listening to some great jams. I don't really notice when one song flows into the next that much, right? Sometimes he has some audio, some kind of sound that will transition from one song into the next, and it's just that's the way he decided to put this thing together. It's totally it's a different format.
Yeah, man. And Gary, you know, you picked this album. I'm wondering, when did you did you discover it when it came out? Were you like ready for it, or like what made you gravitate to this one?
I think it had to be. So Dion got me listening to Wolf a while back, right? Probably close to when it came out. And then, you know, I would just start to, I'm like, what else is out there? I need more. And after, you know, and those albums were, you know, their subject matter, you know, Roach aside, and, you know, vulgar kind of, you know, messed up, you know, references to groups of people aside, those albums were emotional, right? Those were some emotional albums, and I was in the mood, I guess. I'm like, what else is out there from Tyler? I see this album that it clearly has some crazy aesthetic that he's married up in with the music, right? Even in Spotify, you see like little clips on loop of the costumes for these characters that he's come up with that clearly kind of feeds into his live shows and stuff. I'm like, wow, this is a cool art project this guy came out with. And then I started listening to it, and I think my jaw was kind of dropping from the very first track, and how strange it was, and how I immediately was loving it. So yeah, that's I was glad that I could take the enthusiasm that Dion seeded, you know, and just kind of it really took root.
I'm telling you, man. Like I've gone, and Ben, you've gone to we gone to at least one Tyler show together, right? Back in the day.
Yeah, full disclosure, it was during that time in my life that wasn't great, and I remember nothing from the show. I was pretty fucked up.
Well, I can remember for both of us.
I remember the only thing I remember.
I remember some things.
The only I made a lot of changes, listeners, after that. But the only thing I remember was like a very like brown out memory of like a guy jumping from the rafters. That's it. I don't remember anything else.
Gary, the show ended with some dude who like I think it was like Urban Plaza or something, and the show ended with Tyler on one of those like sort of balcony-ish areas off the stage, like the artist performer can get up there, and he was performing from there, and some dude managed to climb his way up to that part. But like the way the shows end, and Tyler's shows are just pure balls of energy. Like they're just massive balls of energy. So of course when they end, it's got to end like in a big like note or whatever. So I forget what song he ended on, but however it ended, the very last like note, the guy jumped from the balcony, and I don't think anyone caught him. Right? Wasn't that the thing? Like didn't he fall straight through?
I don't know. All I remember, like you know how like you ever have drunk memories where like it's like the motion is blurred in your memory.
Yeah.
Oh, you were the guy, Benny. Is that what you're saying?
I turn around and I'm like, where the fuck is Ben?
My memory is just like a body like blurry like falling.
My god.
That's all I remember.
It was insane. It was insane.
It must have been a wild night.
It was a crazy night. But I've seen Tyler at least 4 times, I think, pretty much every time he comes to New York. And part of the reason, like, it's his music. Like, I love his music, I love the style, but he just knows how to work a show. He's a performer. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure how much you guys know about his other ventures, but clearly music isn't the only thing he does. You guys knew he had a sketch show on Adult Swim for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Called Loiter Squad. It was it was like I guess I would call it a cross between like Jackass and like SNL almost. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it was
right?
it was the guys, like the crew from Odd Future. Like all
Taco
all
and Jasper and Earl Sweatshirt and
it was really like immature sketch comedy. That's really what it was.
Really immature.
And then some live footage. Did you ever hear the story of like when he was first approached to do this show? It was by the guy who like created Jackass and Big Brother magazine, and he wanted to call it Blackass.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Tyler told him to go fuck himself.
I don't know. I think that was I don't know when that idea stopped, but it was involved with the same production company. I don't think it was as much of a hey man, that's
Dick House or something.
Dick House, yeah. Dick House.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, the show was. I remember laughing at a lot of it, and then other sketches. It was so like. It was
painful.
Bad.
Yeah, painful.
It was
painful.
It was like, this is rough to watch.
But the funny shit was
I see the eating the cockroach coming from that, right? Like eating the cockroach is a kind of I don't want to say sketch comedy. What do you call that? Like Tom Green and
Shock Jock or
right. Wait, who's Eric Andre show? Right? Like
yeah,
genre, right?
Yeah.
Like you
very much, yeah.
Go
ahead. Sorry, Gary.
Go ahead, Gary.
Oh no, it's right on. It's performance art, right? It's performance art, and performance art makes you. I mean, sometimes it's funny, but it's more often than not, it just makes you feel something, and it sticks with you, right? It stays with you, and makes you think about it random times, gives you flashbacks. Right? I mean, the dude is an artiste, right? It's not even about music; he's an artiste.
Yo, and that's really like getting back to this album, like this. Well, I think my favorite of his albums is still Wolf, and I love Goblin too. And I love it for the original reason I loved it, which is just his bars. Like he had like his rapping style was extremely creative, out of the box, complex, rhythmic, really cool rhyme schemes. That's what I loved, his rhyme schemes, and how, he was like Doom inspired, but also Eminem inspired. And that's like a rare combination. You know what I mean? And then, so when I'm listening to this album, and by the way, Dion, sorry to cut you off. I know you were probably going to talk about his fashion. Like he also made a huge impact in fashion.
Yeah. So
the Odd Future shirts, I still see them. I still see
all the time. He has a shoe line right now. He has a shoe line. It's
He's truly like an extremely impactful business minded artist.
And he's
you
not
know
even,
what I
and
mean?
he's not even 30 yet. He's not even fucking 30.
Yeah.
What is the shoe line tailored to, right? Because shoes are specialized.
It's
right?
like skate shoe ish.
Yeah, Vans. They're very much Vans like in that style. Because that's the other thing about Odd Future is that whole crew, like skateboarding is a huge part of that crew. Skate culture and everything like that.
One of the illest skaters currently, like professional skaters, was down, like has been down with Odd Future. I think Dion, when we saw Earl Sweatshirt, which by the way, I remember that show.
Yeah.
When we went to see Earl, I think he was his hype man. I'm not sure.
I thought his hype man was Taco.
No, the guy's name is Nikel Smith.
Okay.
I could be pronouncing his name wrong. I apologize if I did, but he's a ridiculous skateboarder. He's on, fucking awesome skateboards, which is the best name ever. And and Adidas, he had his own shoe.
Nice.
Like he's like truly a dope skater.
Nice.
At any rate, when listening to this album, this was one of those, and Gary, you touched on it before. My experience was like I know that there was a narrative in the lyrics because I looked it up, but if I never looked it up, right? If I never said, let me look into this, I would never know that there was. I'd know that he was talking about love, longing, and acceptance, and like all those things, but like I would not know that this is about a love triangle and him, and his, who he's chasing after and also running from. Like I wouldn't have put that together, because it just feels like an album about longing, and then anger for not being accepted, and then acceptance that he's not with this person.
You know what? That idea came through, and I think it came I think that I didn't know there was a narrative to this at all. I'm very surprised by that, because it seemed to me if I were to try to right, I'm surprised by that. And then again, I didn't dig as deep as you probably did, D. But like, so take Earthquake, right? Mm-hmm. That song Earthquake, right, with an F. Mm-hmm. It's not about anything, right? I think that he really did not care about the music, the lyrics very much, because he saw them as a layer of sound and flow to complement the rest of the music. So Earthquake isn't about anything. He wrote it because there was an earthquake, right? And like fault, like, hey, like it's my fault, like that thing he keeps repeating.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even put that together.
It's a pun. It's a pun on fault lines and earthquakes. It's not about anything. But then again, these are words on a theme that together with the music convey a feeling of longing very effectively, right? As if he wrote some serious, non-rhyming, non-musical essay about the topic, and you just read it with a cup of coffee in hand, right? It came across just as effectively, I think.
See, that's interesting, Gary. Like you are right. You actually are right that he got the idea of the song literally because he's in LA. He's from LA. He went through an earthquake while writing, producing this album, and an earthquake woke him up, and it kind of inspired to write this. But I didn't look at it as just like a nothing throwaway song in this, because the whole theme of the album, as Ben said, it's like the love triangle, but it also like it flows, right? So I feel like the first track, like the first real track in this Earthquake, it's saying all right, this is like the beginning of a love. Like, all right, this earthquake like woke me up to like to me, like having feelings for you and everything like that. And then it sort of goes on. Like if all you have to do is really look at the titles of the album and see how they weave through. It's like the earthquake is the very beginning. Then I think they get a little bit more, a little deeper into their relationship. Running out of time, new magic wand that means something else. And then eventually like it gets to the point where he gets so desperate for love that he's like, I'll be your puppet, like, which is one of the tracks later on. Then after that it's I don't love you anymore, and then can we still be friends? Like it really does flow. Like it's a theme. Like yes, it's not filled with the lyrics that we're used to and like trying to spell it out for us, but it is there if you really like sort of like really take a listen. This could also just be my like
it came across, man.
Yeah.
I mean what you're saying intellectually came across like in the feeling that I got from listening to the music, for sure. I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So the narrative of the lyrics, it's part of it, but I think and like it's funny most of the reviews I saw, because I looked at a couple of reviews this week, and they focus on the narrative, but in the review, and then mention what I feel, which is that the music and the production and the composition of these tracks is what shines through, but they spend so much time on the narrative. I know that, so like it's a love triangle with, is it a man and another man or a man and a woman?
It's a man and a woman is how I look at it, because it's Tyler, the person Tyler's seeking is a man. That man has an ex-girlfriend. And it's basically Tyler trying to like not steal him away, but like trying to convince him. It's like forget that girl, like come be with me. That's basically it.
Yeah, there's lyrics like we're at breakfast, why'd you bring your ex? Stuff like that, and so like it's all there. And to me, quite frankly, it feels very surface level. Like it's like none of the lyrics. Here's my complete honesty. I didn't listen to the album and go, oh man, that bar was hard, or I was like, I can't believe he rhymed that with that. And it's not what it's about, right? Like
exactly.
It's not about look at how well I could rhyme and look at my metaphors and similes and I'm gonna out rap everyone. The raps were just another texture to paint with,
yes, well put.
And I like how I really dig the pitch modulation.
Oh,
I don't know what,
he does
like
that a
how
lot.
he
He
could
does that a
change
lot.
his voice throughout the album. It reminded me of like a Parliament Funkadelic album. I don't know if you listen to those. I know
exactly what you're talking about,
but they get the high pitched voice, the low pitched voice, and you know what I mean. They just they make these characters out, and like.
And Tyler's not the only rapper to do it. Biggie did it.
No.
It's interesting, but Tyler uses it a lot.
Doesn't Kendrick do it too on
Kendrick
to
does
Pimp a
it.
Butterfly, and hey, Tyler just killed it with that, and but really like my the thing I loved most was his compositions. I find with hip hop especially, right? I don't usually love synth beats, right? Like it's just me. Like synthesized, meaning just like to anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's MIDI digital piano, to make these noises that are clearly not organic instruments. They're not acoustic bass, electric guitar, and acoustic drums. They're like these, some of the drums sounded acoustic, but for the majority of this album until the very end, honestly, it's very these big synth noisescapes,
Right.
to for his compositions, a lot of them. And I usually don't love it because I find with most synthy newer music, it's very simple and it's clear that like I feel that the hip hop's movement more and more towards synth and less towards sampling is a financial decision.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you don't have to clear your samples. You'll never get sued if someone just makes you a synth loop. But that's the difference. These are not synth loops. These are not like some guy like, yeah, I'm going to take Fruity Loops and Pro Tools and I'm just going to make this thing and put it on repeat for a song. And that's what a lot of these newer beats that people are hypnotized by, like certain trap beats and certain, like, I don't know what you call like Future or Migos. Like I don't know what genre of hip hop that's considered. I apologize for my ignorance, but those beats that are like hypnotic, I find them irritating. I don't know.
I love a lot of those beats. I think a lot of those beats for different reasons than the reasons that I like the old 90s boom bap beats. Like they're clearly not the same. But some of those like Migos beats like are fire, bro. Like it's different. Yeah. But like totally. I'm the bump in my head. Like I'm just blasting the shit in my car. Like this shit, it's dope, man. It's like I said, it's not New York. It ain't the 90s. Like it's not my favorite.
Totally.
But, times have changed. But I find myself listening to a lot of that shit sometimes. And like,
but you still drive to it. You still drive to it.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
and to be fair, like I knew I was going to be the odd man on that one. They don't do it for me.
That's fair.
And I actually heard an interview. I'm getting off course here, but I heard an interview with Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A Tribe Called Quest a while ago, and someone said the interview was very simple. He's like, man, why did Midnight Marauder sound so good and like nothing sounds that good now? You know what I mean? Like he said that to him, and he goes, well, my honest answer is you have a lot of synthesized beats, and because you're not sampling acoustic instruments, there's this whole mid-range of tones, you know, besides the heavy bass and the treble, there's all these mids get lost. They're not sampling, they're not using synths to push the mid, and that kind of brings it back to like I don't always love that sound. It's just it's harsh to me. It doesn't I don't vibe with it.
It is layered though on this album with with a core of instrumentals.
Yep.
Totally, and that's what I'm so bringing it back to. Here we are, a truly majority synth driven album where I really liked it because why? It's not loops. It's clearly whether it's Tyler or another instrumentalist that he hired, these are played songs. I think the drums are programmed. It's clearly not someone playing the drums, but the bass lines are played on a keyboard. The mids, the highs, everything is composed. It's not loops, which makes the album feel alive even though it's with digital instrumentation. And I really liked it. I preferred this in the car than to my headphones. Sometimes when I was blasting it in my headphones, the synth was washing out. I couldn't even hear what he was saying sometimes. And I think that was
I would never notice that shit, Benny.
I know.
You notice.
I know. I know. I'm such a snob. I get it. I know, guys. But like, hey, I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the musicality of it. It was an experience, and it's an album designed to be listened to as an album, and for that I am so appreciative. I am so admire an artist this day and age with this nation's attention span, brave enough to make an album that was meant to be played from start to finish.
And honestly, specifically with Tyler's fan base has consistently been like millennials and younger, almost, so
high school kids.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that you're absolutely right, like specifically that demographic, you managed to get, release a wildly successful album, to playing to that audience and a wider audience. That's a big part of it too. But clearly, like his base had to be a big part of that. So yeah, he's almost like a Pied Piper of kids. I don't know.
Can I?
That's
ask you
fucked
up. Oh fuck.
It's only fucked up because he pointed it out.
Yeah, man. What the fuck, Gary? Can I ask you guys something? So, am I alone in that, or do you guys miss that too? This idea that the albums that used to come out were they came out when CDs, unless you burned yourself a mixed CD, right? You put it in and press play, and there was thought that how is this song gonna lead into this song?
Yeah. Ben, I know your point. I'm gonna actually put your point even further. This is before fucking CDs. This is when they were pressing records and shit, where like physically the grooves.
But
like,
I guess
no, I'm saying your point. Like I'm proving your point even more. Like you're right. Yeah,
without a doubt. But I'm saying our eyes were opening and our tastes were developing at the end of that era, right?
Oh, the CD. Okay, yeah.
By the time,
when it was still romantic to make a mixtape for somebody.
Yeah,
man.
At the very tail of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that, Gary.
I made some for Bubba.
Yo, I made some for you, Gary.
I have them.
I used to burn you. I used to burn you CDs and be like, "Yo, on right with marker, like, yo, Gary, I love this album. Check it out. I think you'll like it."
Yeah, but Gary, remember that Biggie mix though?
I do. I love that. They had a lot of original music on it that I haven't heard before. you guys went deep.
Oh my god. All right, getting back to it. So like, albums do come out still that are like that. Let's not I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm saying for the most part, right? The way people find success is that one song of the summer. You know what I mean? And they're going to put out an album, if they put out an album, that is a collection of songs, hoping that one of them becomes played in someone's playlist a lot, right? I don't think artists, particularly in hip hop and I guess just popular music, are putting thought into playing the album the whole way through. People who do that are Kendrick Lamar. I mean, his albums are totally meant to be listened to from start to finish. Royce, again, but he's not in that, wildly popular on the radio lane.
Right.
So just the fact that the album that got quote unquote the good look that year when Tyler won a Grammy for this album, to me that's a huge deal, because I think it kind of sends a message to the world that, like, you don't need, because not one of these songs is a banger. Not one of these songs is like, yeah, this was the song of the summer. You
Right.
know what I mean? And like fucking Macklemore won a Grammy, and like don't even get me started on that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But because he had that thrift store song, which, hey, I identify. I'm a thrift shopper, but I mean the fact that Macklemore won a fucking Grammy is
Most hip hop fans ain't.
Yo,
Literally.
what is the thrift item that you have purchased last, both of you?
a t-shirt. I got a dope
Yeah.
t-shirt. Yeah.
Alright, so was this for everyday wear, or was it for a costume?
Oh, I love used t-shirts, man. Just wash them. I wear them all the time.
Right?
I'm not really a thrift shop dude.
Now, Dion is a retail.
I'm a retail whore.
The details in the retails.
What can I say? If it don't got a name tag on it, get it out of my face.
I don't even think Dion buys things on sale. Me, I'm like, oh shit, it's $2. I gotta have it.
I'm like, $2. Can we make that 4?
I wanted to talk a little bit about, and this clicked for me as we were talking just now, but what is the process by which somebody who is a prolific artist and artiste, right, like Tyler, or like Cool Keith or other prolific artists, how is it that they create work? And when I was listening to this and I saw the accompanying aesthetic, and when I, just like one of these episodes way back, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how when you close your eyes and you listen to an album, you see a color.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Gary, you know what? I was gonna mention that, and I just want to annotate that real quick I want to let you continue that thought. That was our second ever attempt at doing one of these, and it is not published. But one day we might release it to you guys, just because fuck it, a lot of good shit was said.
Yeah.
But we did not have the technology for it to sound great at the time, so it was we actually were talking about a Busta Rhymes album, and I said, with these Busta Rhymes albums, I always, whenever I hear them, I remember I listen and see the color of his album cover. Always. It was Anarchy, and we were talking about how I see red when I listen to Anarchy. When we listen to When Disaster Strikes, I see like a dark blue, purple, you know what I mean? And like and I was gonna say, Gary, exactly what you were gonna say. I heard Pink through this whole album.
Interesting.
Word.
Yes.
Totally. And so how this relates to what the point I was making was, if I have to think that if you're releasing music like all the time, right? You have an ongoing creative process in your life where you're releasing music, and each piece of work that you're creating is a reflection of your current state, and it's also a reflection of everything you've learned, and it should be better than the last in some way or different, right? That state of mind has to be less like you're chopping wood and you're coming up with material, and it's like, or writing like long essays and it's translating, and more like it's a filter for everything that's coming through your mind. You just have a process by which you filter it through and you put it out there, So, and the reason why this came to mind is I see this with contemporary dance. So Sarah, my wife, right, is she's a dancer working in contemporary performance, and I've been in this relationship for a decade, and I see the projects she's working on, and when she's working with a choreographer or she's the choreographer that has a concept in mind or is really just in this state of flow and creation, it's less like, let's just come up with content and pack it together and put it into this piece, right? It's more of a, let's filter everything that's going on through this feeling and put it together. And then in that case, the content doesn't have to be as dense. Unless that's the point of the piece, and it's more of like what can we throw at the wall that fits this feeling, this color that you have in the back of your mind when you close your eyes, that you're filtering the entire world through. And as an audience member, I could be taking in a long 3-hour performance of contemporary art, and I might be finding all this meaning in it, and thinking, wow, this if I were creating this, I would have to write out a great American novel or something long to actually fit all this content. But really, it's there was an earthquake. And it's like, it gets the point across, and you see it, and it's extremely effective as somebody taking that in as a more kind of basic oriented consumer of art. That's how it feels to me. The genius comes through, even though it's not just dense with content.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Gary. And that was my takeaway too, is that it doesn't matter that like maybe I can't recite most of these lyrics, and I listened to this album, listeners, we had like a 2-week, I believe, hiatus between, so we had a long time. I listened to this album 6-7 times, which usually I don't get to do, and I still can't recite any of the lyrics. And the only one that stuck out to me is like, "Do my best, garçon," because I thought that was a very clever way to say you're my best boy. But that's okay. Again, even if I never read that it was about a love triangle, who he's chasing, and him coming to, without any of that information, I knew from first listen that this was an album about longing and disappointment and acceptance. You know what I mean? It was very clear, and the emotions come out in the notes and in the composition. Yeah. And that's beautiful, man. Hip hop is such an awesome art form, but so often the beats don't necessarily reflect the theme. They're funky or hard-hitting or menacing or trippy, but they don't necessarily, most of the time, they don't necessarily reflect the emotion, right? The emotional theme of the lyrics, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm obsessed with albums that have that, but
and meanwhile, this album, it's almost the opposite. It's almost like it's all emotional with the beats. Like it's written all over it. Like, a standout, this perfect transition for this, because what had been, and I think still probably is, my favorite track on the album is the penultimate song, "I Don't Love You Anymore." And
is that the one where there's acoustic instrumentation, like where you could hear guitars and stuff?
It's the yes it is.
I love that. Yeah. I remember thinking, Dion, when that song hit for the first time, I was going, man, I kind of wish that these same exact compositions on some of these previous tracks were the same exact notes, but just that some of these instruments were actually, not a keyboard.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I remember thinking that a few times after my first listen, when I heard this track with acoustic instruments, going, man, imagine if that synth line was actually played by a bass guitar. Imagine if that, key thing was on an organ. You know what I mean? Like, I had those moments, but
right.
Sorry. You know what? I actually was thinking of the last track, "Are We Still Friends?" That's the one that had the acoustic instrumentation that made me, wish that maybe some other tracks had it too.
Right.
Go ahead, D.
But "I Don't Love You Anymore" does still have some instrumentation. That's why I thought that's what you're talking about. But you're right. Are We Still Friends has even more. But it was my favorite track because it doesn't have that many lyrics, right, to it. But it's that idea that the beat is just conveys that feeling so well. It might be the most emotionally connected beat on the whole album. just to
There's
get
some
that
turmoil in
there's
the
some
beats.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like
Yeah.
the few lyrics are there. It's just him screaming like a child, "I don't love you anymore." You know, it's just like it's clearly it's like, all right, well, do you really? Because it sounds like you might be a little
It seems like
conflicted.
you're emotionally invested in this.
exactly. And the like
Take
the,
it.
the
I don't want him
strings-
anyway.
exactly, like sour grapes. And then the background vocals that come on later on too, like there's like a certain sadness to this song, like almost like a beautiful sadness, you know. And it especially it kind of like it gets driven home where there's I think 2 or 3 times where you hear Tyler like sort of spoken word in the background going, but this just might be better for us, you know. Like hearing that line, that was a real tinge of reality. That was just like, oh, okay, wait, no, that's like an actual conversation that people have broken up may have.
Totally,
You know?
I've heard that before, right?
But you know what I mean? Like hearing that line combined with like the sort of sad sort of like the sad beat and the subject matter, it really like I felt really kind of emotionally connected to this song. Yeah, it's I don't know I don't know really, you know, it's interesting. I just thought it's just a great song.
Totally. And I'm not a musician. Like, I just took my second bass guitar lesson ever, you know, but
What?
like yeah, man, I'll send you videos. You know, but like I do recognize like how much power the notes and chords and key and, you know, major, minor, like how much those choices matter. And to be fair, usually, right, we're talking about a different genre of music if that's the case. Usually, whether it be like, you know, alternative rock or you know, not alternative
country,
rock,
even.
country.
Yeah.
I think about like one of my favorite groups ever, Wilco. The tones underneath the lyrics are as important as the lyrics themselves. They accentuate or magnify what the lyrics are talking about. This album, like in that example, I Don't Love You Anymore, there's turmoil, there's a tension in that like slowish backing instrumental track that like even if you didn't have Tyler's augmented voice going, I don't love you anymore, even if you didn't have that, there's this like tension and sadness and turmoil in just the sonic textures. And I love that about this album so
it's
much.
very clever. It's very clever how that comes out. It's cleaverness that is usually reserved for what you love in lyrics, I think, right?
Totally.
But it was expressed in this way.
Totally. You know, he even, you know, I know that he was the main composer. I know he hired some instrumentalists, but, you know, his choices for composition earlier on the album, I again, don't quote me on this, it could be Puppet or What's Good. Around that, again, because the album is like a straight through type of thing, I didn't really perk up and be like, what song is this? It was the experience for me. But on one of those songs on the back half of the album, he even uses a technique that Fish of all bands uses, which is this dissonance and like notes that according to like standard popular music don't work well together. There's like they challenge each other in a way, in a contrast where it's a major or a minor. Fish calls it out music and tension and release. So they'll be jamming and then they'll all go in these directions that are clashing with each other, and what you feel is this tension because it's not a like a chord. They're not playing all the notes in a chord or a key. They're out of sync with each other and then come back in. You know what I mean? So there's a few times again around that, you know, back half of the album on one song where he's throwing in these notes that are completely out of key. They're not notes that if you're writing or composing a pop song, that they're not going to fit. They're actually going to make the general pop listener go, oh, like what?
It's almost like he's taking his hand on the keyboard and just like hitting a couple keys randomly and like, you know, sort of like thinking it's music. I mean, first of all, it turns out to be beautiful music in this case, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, just hitting these 3 random keys and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And meanwhile, I was like, no, that sounds like a 3-year-old that just hit a keyboard.
And it's not random. It's not random.
No, it's not.
I know that it's intentional. The intention behind it for me was to like make the listener uneasy, and that is just when that much thought is being put into the music part, not the lyrics, you got like a genius on your hands. You know, this doesn't usually happen even in the R&B world. I said this is an experimental R&B album, not an R&B album, because you don't get dissonant out music in R&B. You don't.
Well, I mean, you know what's funny? I got something for you. Yeah. So the in the AT Aliens show, I said something that I later looked back on and thought, should I ask the guys to just maybe take that out? So what I said was there was something in common between Kanye West's listening to a Kanye West album straight through, listening to something like AT Aliens straight through, and listening to a Tyler album straight through. And I was concerned afterwards that the thing in common is just me being racist, right? That would be something that's in common. But in fact, as it turns out, they had a shared mixing engineer. Outcast for AT Aliens and Speakerbox and Love Below worked with this guy Neil Polk, who was also the mixing engineer on this album.
Get the fuck out of here!
Yeah, right? So that continuous
Professor
feeling.
Gurovich, hell yeah! Enters the chat.
Gary, it turns out you're not racist.
Well, it's not this time. But look, hey, part of the process of not being racist is re-examining shit you say sometimes and wondering what was the reason behind that.
100%, Gary, you're right. We always have to examine our motives, and us people, you and I, who both know we aren't racist, still have to take a look at everything we say and make sure that just because we don't think we are, that we're not saying something hurtful or insensitive. I agree completely.
In this case, it wasn't.
Yeah, so otherwise, you end up with the Washington Redskins. Anyway,
isn't that what we're calling this podcast?
New name.
Gary, no, hey, that was a dope connection. Thank you.
Seriously, that's great. Did not get that.
So, I'm wondering, Dion. Because you clearly know more than either of us about what the album is, quote unquote, about. So do you have anything to any analysis to go in there, or did we say it all?
No, there's actually it's funny, we were talking about colors earlier, right? And I definitely agree that I hear this album and I hear Pink. A lot of that is obviously due to the fact that Tyler has I don't know if he has officially come out, but he's essentially an out artist, right? So I don't know if it has something to do with that, the fact that he's talking about sort of like love and romance or anything like that. But there is a moment in New Magic 1 where he says something about my eyes are green, I eat vegetables, right? And I thought it was kind of like a throwaway line, but at the same time I was like, I feel like that sounds familiar. Like, what is that? I heard the song again. I listened to it again. Then I mean, partially with the help of looking this up a little bit, I quickly realized that, oh shit, that was a fucking Erykah Badu line from like 20 years ago.
Ooh,
that song, Green Eyes. That song, Green Eyes of hers. You know that song? It's like, my eyes
Mama's
are
gone.
green. Yeah, it's because I eat my vegetables. I ain't got nothing to do with your new friend. Like that. Those are the lyrics. Basically, green-eyed monster jealousy, right? Like which actually is an old Shakespearean concept. It actually comes from Othello, which in itself is an interesting choice for both Erykah Badu and Tyler to use, because Othello is probably the closest thing to a black character that Shakespeare had, or a black main character that Shakespeare ever had. So that in itself is really interesting. But there's a line that says, "Oh, beware, my lord of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on." So the green-eyed monster that Erykah Badu was talking about, like, that's the point of the line. She's saying, like, basically she's like, like, no, my eyes are green. Like, it's not because I'm jealous, because I eat vegetables. Get out of here. You know what I mean? It's like, and the same thing that Tyler's saying. He's basically saying, like, yeah, I'm not jealous. Like, it's because I do this. Like, it's not jealousy at all. Meanwhile, we as the audience member know it's totally jealousy. Obviously, right?
Dude, I don't know why I'm so disappointed right now, but like, I'm disappointed that Tyler gets me so completely, because I love that Erykah Badu album. And totally, I subconsciously must have made that connection too. To some
I think
extent,
it did. Yeah, because it's such a great song. I mean, Erykah is a goddess in her own right.
Amazing.
Maybe at some point we review one of her albums. I wouldn't
I'd be
rule
down
that
for
out.
that.
I'd love that.
But that same song on this track again, New Magic One. The first few lyrics, it goes, I saw a photo, you look joyous, my eyes are green, I eat my veggies. I need to get her out the picture. She's really fucking up my frame. She's not developed like we are. That shit's deep, man. And it incorporates the jealousy, the eyes are green thing, and they eat my veggies. But then it moves on to keep on going. Be like, yo, wow. you guys don't fit. Like you should come with me. That's going back to that whole theme of trying to get this guy to leave his ex-girlfriend and come be with him.
Wow. Okay. I see that now. Yeah. So the story or the narrative in this album is Tyler infatuated and in love with a man who is currently with or was with a girl.
I think was with a girl, but he's so close with her, or he might be trying to get back with her, but also maybe
got it.
I can see
it
doesn't seem
and it's like a push pull and all the emotions that come along with it.
That's how I read.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I listened to it really. But yeah, so that was kind of an interesting thought. And I also wanted to talk about what's the song? Oh, so we should talk a little bit about the song "What's Good," because "What's Good" is by far it is the hip hop song on this album. Again, I've said it every week now. Every album has the one song that is like the pure hip hop song. Every album has one, and I sort of said that like sort of wishy-washy a few weeks ago, thinking, oh, is that actually true? But every week we've done an album so far, it's rung true, and this is definitely it.
Okay.
There's almost, I mean, the beat is great in this, but he's rapping the entire time from top to finish, and he's got some bars, man. One of my favorites actually, he goes, I don't get anxiety, you Samboy ass niggas, I just get my mic on. What that means for you guys that don't realize who Sam Bowie is. Sam Bowie was the number 2 overall. The number 2 overall pick in the 1984 NBA draft. You know who came after him? Michael Jordan as the number 3 overall pick. So no matter what Sam Bowie did his entire career, I think his career was okay at best. He had a lot of injuries and everything. But no matter what he did, he was always going to be considered a bust. Because he was drafted right before Michael Jordan, who's the greatest basketball player of all time.
That's a dope deep cut, man.
Dope, right? Exactly.
Yeah, I would never have known.
And that also just gives me an opportunity to give a shout out to if anyone has seen The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, the soundtrack. Just now. The soundtrack. You watch it, Gary?
Love that.
The soundtrack. It is probably. Now I don't even know. Probably it is the greatest documentary soundtrack ever. It's unbelievable.
If you love hip hop.
But even like they go through the years. In 1987 they're playing I Ain't No Joke. In 1997 they're playing Step Into a World. In 1990 when they're talking about that championship, they're playing Can I Kick It. It's such a great documentary, such a great soundtrack. But I digress. That is
a digression that is worth taking. I mean, that is the thing is that Michael Jordan was playing for so long that you got to hear all these eras of hip hop as the backdrop to his playing. Much. It was cool. Yeah. Man, that's wild. You know, I didn't catch any of that because the whole time I was listening to it, I was thinking that current year Michael Jordan has the exact mannerisms of current year my brother. My big brother. They're the same. They have the same way of going about life. They're sitting around in like some sort of kind of futuristic Russian mansion and smoking cigars.
Four fingers of whiskey.
That's right. They talk the same and they kind of carry themselves the same way.
Oh my God, I never thought of it that way. You're absolutely right.
Shout out to Uj.
That's amazing. But yeah, couple other lines in there. Actually, this song actually may give a hint to the title. If anything, there's a song where there's a line at the end of the first verse. The first verse is basically just him like wilding the fuck out, and I think that's just after after the true breakup, like he's now done with this guy. Now he's gonna go on like a rampage, and there's a line where he goes, "If the cops ask my name, bitch, I'm Igor." Basically saying it's like, yo, I'm gonna wild the fuck out. You're gonna give him a fucking fake name because I'm just gonna keep going. You know what I mean? So I think
wait. So am I just grasping this right now? So Igor is just the name of the album is because
I think so.
Wow,
I
it's
think so.
because if when he's wiling out, like it's just like just tell them I'm Igor, because don't even give him my real name.
I think that specific thing about the tell him my fake name, I think that might be specific to the song, but I think the idea of Igor being a different person who's like, you know, separate from the romantic part. That's not, again, that's my interpretation. I could be wrong.
It's a wild ass character, right? He came up with a wild character with. Like,
I literally thought
hair.
it was from. Yeah. I thought like the hair, like his blonde wig, and I thought he was Igor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's still Igor. It's still Tyler. It's still his other. It's like the other guy. You know. It's like almost like a multiple personality.
Tayshaun Dorset.
Tayshaun Dorset.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a cool Keith reference to anyone who was confused by that. You know, it's funny. He's been doing that character thing since day one, since Bastard even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like he always has these different, but they were always in skits. So I wasn't sure. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. Sorry to interrupt, but that actually was leading me to another sort of separate point, because you're absolutely right. All his other albums, or most of his other albums, has that other character that's almost like the devil on the shoulder, right? It's clear it's him, just with like they lower the pitch of his voice, and it's like, you know, it's him like, you know, just telling him sort of bad advice, you know, like I gotta be a bad person. And you're right, it showed up in skits a lot. In this one though, he does something similar but different. What he does is he has the comedian Jared Carmichael deliver this essentially, it's kind of like a monologue, but I think it was Tyler that interviewed him. And he's talking about some pretty deep stuff, and I think one of the tracks is straight up just him talking. It's exactly what you run from is what you end up
right, the interludes.
Yeah, exactly. That's all one guy. That's Jared Carmichael. Who again?
Right, it came from like a YouTube video they did like a couple of years ago.
Right, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But the difference is he's almost that voice isn't just in that one skit. It shows up at the end of a couple of these songs too. So I think that voice kind of replaces that old sort of demonic voice, whereas that voice was kind of like, you know, again, the devil on the shoulder. This one's kind of more the angel on the shoulder. This one is the voice of reason, because every if you go through the album, if you listen to the album again, pay attention. It's gonna be a little hard. It'll be a lot easier if you go through with while reading lyrics.
Right.
But if you pay attention, some of the songs do end with, again, like some just one lines from Jared Carmichael, and it has directly to do with what's going on in that song. I wish I should have written down some of those examples, but it happens at least 3 or 4 times.
I got some of those in my mind actually, Dion.
Yeah.
And I interpreted it differently, and this is maybe from lack of like researching it, but I thought that they were just like, he picked out some generic sounding platitudes to almost make fun of, you know, that idea, right? Like whatever you run from, you end up chasing. Just
no, I think he's running from. Well, yeah, no, you know,
right? There's
you know,
always
Gary,
an obstacle. Like it's like somebody giving like a speech about, you know, how to succeed in business or something. You know, it's like it just these generic things can apply if you like read into them very much, but really it's like the confidence and posters that you find in offices all the time. Totally. Exactly.
Accountability and hang in there, exactly. No, Gary, you could be right. I looked at it as this because, like, for example, that exact track, the every what's it called? It's called exactly what you run from is what you end up chasing. That could easily be what this character is trying to get at, because like one could argue like this doesn't seem like a character that's looking that is like a person who's into love, right? Especially if this is Igor, who's like, you know, just trashing the place or whatever, and you know it doesn't appear like love is like at the forefront of this character's brain. So I would think that this is a character that is running from love. But that's exactly what he ends up chasing in this. He's trying to chase love, and he's trying to chase love from someone else that you know, from this guy who already has love in another person, another woman. Wow. I think that skit is sort of it lends to like the sort of theme and the story of this. And again, if you listen to that skit again and then couple it, well, the couple would be with one other, but if you pair it would be with one other too, wouldn't it? If you group it with
there you go,
with the other lines I'm talking about that end some of these songs that Jared Carmichael is saying, I think it's pretty clear that he is the voice of reason. He is the person that's telling Tyler or Igor, whoever it is, like here's the next step you could take. Like clearly this relationship isn't going the way you want. Here's what you should do.
Wow.
This is what I would do. Like this is again.
So he serves as almost like a conscience,
exactly,
or someone who not a confidant, but a voice of reason, or at least yeah. That's dope, man. I really I didn't catch it, but now in retrospect, because I've listened to this album a ton in the past 2 weeks, I see it, and I feel like the main character, whether it be Tyler the creator or Igor or whoever the main character is, his perspective is from an inexperienced person, someone who hasn't been through this before. And I think you watch, at least the way I saw it, is you were experiencing it through someone who, almost a naivety, is that the word?
Naivety.
From a naive perspective, you see someone infatuated, then you watch that naivety turn into disappointment when what you want isn't met. Right, and then right. At the end, it's just kind of like the "Are we still friends?" part. You know what I mean? It's like this. I love that song because I saw it even on the first listen. Like, "Are we still friends?" Like, right? Like, that's such a common theme in breakups. Like, I hope we could still be friends. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never had a breakup where I remained friends. Where I'm like, hey, let's go hang out now as friends. So it's just really interesting.
It's an aspirational thing that people try for, but like life is not
rarely
that long.
Succeeds.
It's complex. Exactly. And also on that with the Are We Still Friends? I don't know if either of you guys watch Insecure. Great show at HBO. But this most recent season just ended last Sunday, and Issa Rae or whoever is the music supervisor in the show chose to end the season with this song, because this season, again, whether you watch it or not, this was probably the best season in my opinion, in both me and Kate's opinion. And a lot of it had to do with, there was some drama in it. There were some best friends that were beefing, like with some real, like not like bullshit reason. Like, it was really well written. So the fact that they chose to end the season with like a sort of a drone shot pan out of one of the characters with this song blasting in the background, it's kind of like a cliffhanger. And it also just went to show like just how much just respect for Tyler. I mean, Issa Rae, who the creator of Insecure, she's from LA, so she makes it a point to give shine to a lot of LA artists, a lot of local, both popular and unpopular LA artists. So it's not surprising.
She's a musician. She's a musician that's creating music, right? She's an active creator.
Yeah, actress. I don't know if she does music, but
well, like even in the earlier, like I watched the.
Yeah. Sorry, wait. I need to. No, you're absolutely right. I forgot she's a rapper.
Yeah, and she's got some really humorous, like she's got stuff that's like very witty and funny. And
she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Almost.
Can I just tell on myself again? I haven't seen this show, and now I have to go see it. Thank you, guys.
Now you gotta go see it.
No excuses.
But yeah, no. So it was interesting, and she's used Tyler before, so it's not that surprising. But no, just because you brought that up, I just wanted to point that out. It's just recent in my head. I turned to Kate, and I'm like, this song is from the album reviewing this week. Oh shit!
Dope.
That was kind of dope.
I love how much shine Tyler got this year. Honestly, it's well deserved. I don't think his previous work, which holds a nice place in my heart, but I don't think his previous work, because of the subject matter, would have gotten such critical acclaim, right? And that's the sad part about like critics, is their feelings come into play. Right, so like I've read so many reviews of albums that I love, and they go, "Oh, this is misogynistic, this is homophobic, this is racist." Like, it's like, yo, like, it's just an artist. Like, like it's weird that hip hop it's the only genre of music where whatever the artist says, it must be how they truly feel. Right, where like other we've talked about it before, other genres of music, you got whatever, no one ever like picks apart the lyrics and go, man, they really like a breakup song in rock, or a breakup song in like, man, they really said something insensitive there. You know what I mean? But I think it's because
sometimes it's besides the point, right? It's besides the point.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a vehicle for creating music, the subject matter, right? Except for some artists, right? Like, you listen to Tully Quilly, and
Right.
he means what he's talking about. It's very
Totally.
well, thought through, and the point is the lyrics, right? But not in this case.
No, and even our next week's pick, which I will reveal, shortly, that album has so much intention. The lyrics are completely from the perspective of the artist. But, I feel like we have to differentiate between politically driven albums and just someone, wanting to beast out on the mic. So the original Tyler works that were considered extremely homophobic, I think they deserve more critical acclaim, and I think they should be remembered as really great art pieces too.
Right.
This album was fan-fucking-tastic. Gary, I can't thank you enough. It's usually the other way around. Usually, before we started this, before we started the show, it used to be, "Yo, Gary, you ever heard this?" "No, I haven't." "Well, listen." "Okay," and then you don't, and then you don't listen.
Right. For like a decade, and then I do.
Eventually.
So but now you really. I don't know if I ever would have put Igor on. To be fair, all three of us, are hardworking professional adults who don't have all the time in the world to listen to music. I always, I'm a creature of habit. I go back to albums I love more than I will go looking for new music. So this really opened my eyes, man. This was a beautiful, beautiful album.
Yep.
So you guys want to do your final takes, and then I'll take us out?
Yeah. Gary, why don't you start? This is your
sure.
album.
Sure. Yeah. There were times listening to this album where I felt like, sharing a link to the song with my mother. Well, because
Can you elaborate on that?
Here's what I mean. My mom is a classically trained pianist, right?
Yep.
So, and she plays classical music, and she went to a conservatory, in the USSR, and totally would be alienated or would find this genre of music probably alien at first, but it is indisputably beautiful. It touched me, right? I was touched by this album, and I think it probably traces back some ways to the roach eating, in the beginning of Tyler's career, because that touched me too, right? Because that's a real. Let's talk about roach eating for a second. Not that I've participated in this, but when I first came to this country, I lived in a place that had a lot of cockroaches, and the thing is that you just kill cockroaches as a child. I was killing cockroaches as a mechanical act, like walking. You see some cockroaches, you kill them. But after a while, you realize that you're snuffing some living things out of existence every time you do this, and when this accumulates. There is an emotional impact there, and it is symbolic that he ate this cockroach. It's like, who cares? It's a cockroach, but that was a big fucker, that cockroach. That was a thing. Like I was saying earlier at the top of the episode, that thing probably had a name. And I say that because my father and I had this game where, like, I would be running, I'd open the cupboards and, like, damn, there's like a big water bug in there, and like. At some point, I'm like, I don't want to keep killing these things. My brother is like, I don't want to keep killing these things. So we just made it up an excuse between my father and my brother and my dad. When we see one, we don't feel like killing it. We just be like, you know what? This one had a day pass, or like, this one had, like, a green card. He's fine to be here or something, and we just leave it alone, right? Knowing that full well we might kill it, next time we run into it when we're in the mood. So anyway, there were a lot of reasons why this album was touching to me and got really close to me. Those were some.
Thank you so much for that, guy.
You're welcome.
Yo, I think you might. you might be vegan one day, man. You might join us.
I would love to be vegan one day, man. If food was not so delicious, and vegan food was not so hard to live, you know, a vegan lifestyle is just hard, man. I'm already living gluten free. Can you imagine if I was living vegan and gluten free?
You'd be, yo.
You'd be Ben.
It's the
Yeah, if I was bad.
yo. It's
the
the
best shape of my life.
It's one of the greatest decisions I ever made. It never felt better. Go ahead, Dick.
So and just a couple of quick little tidbits. Actually, one Ben you would really appreciate, in the song. In the song, I think if you notice, there's a person, and this is all part of my outro. Don't worry. You notice there's a person that at the end of each bar says skate. It says like four skate. There was speculation that was Tyler announcing the possibility of the release of Skate 4.
Which got announced. Did you hear?
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you're telling me that now, because now what I'm about to say makes a little more sense in my head because I didn't realize
it
this.
just got announced 2 days ago.
Right. So listen. So I was doing part of my deep dive a couple of nights ago, and when I was looking that up, the Skate 4 thing, I was like, really? So I just go to Tyler's Twitter page randomly. One of the first tweets is about Skate 4. So what I was actually about to say was that it's still relevant, like people are still crediting him with it. But now that you just told me that, I didn't realize that that's actually what it is. It was the announcement that he retweeted and saying, like, basically alluding to this song, and people.
Well, I mean,
I didn't know that. Wow. So it got announced.
This maybe that was like his protest to like, hey, EA, like, yo, there was when. Side note, this is a funny story. When Trump was running for president, that piece of garbage named Trump was running for president.
Agent Orange, as Busta Rhymes calls him.
the just imbecile that he is. You know, his campaign slogan was "Make America Great Again," and right around the same time, skaters started a hashtag "Make EA Skate Again," and it's been. Like, people have been flooding EA's comments for years. Please make Skate 4. Please make Skate 4. And maybe that was Tyler's.
I'll say, he probably was actually. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Just a few days ago, just a few days ago, the creators of the Skate team said, Skate's coming back.
No, that, like I said, that now makes a lot of sense as to why. Again, it was 2 nights ago where I saw that tweet, and I just happened to think, I was like, oh wow, people attribute Skate 4 to Tyler so much that they just keep tweeting it. But now it makes sense. He actually just retweeted the announcement. Okay, that's good to know. So yeah, okay, this is part of it, guys. We just helped announce Skate 4 is coming out. You heard it 115th probably on Do It Yourself Music Appreciation.
Yeah, you may or may not have heard it on Do It Yourself Music Appreciation.
Another couple of things. The collabs on this album, I actually didn't realize how many collabs he had before doing this little deep dive. Solange is on this on a few tracks. Pharrell collabs on the last track, which is probably why it's so musical, which makes sense. Pharrell is ultra musical. And Pharrell's collabed with Tyler a bunch of times before. Their styles are like, I think Pharrell, like we said, like, you know, some of Tyler's biggest influences before include MF Doom. We completely forgot about Pharrell. Pharrell is probably his biggest influence by far. Odd Future is like, Pharrell is their god, you know. The whole ice cream culture and everything. Kanye produced a track and is on this album, which I
it's funny. They say Kanye's on this album. When I listened to it the whole way through, I can never hear.
Oh, you didn't hear it? Oh, now that I know who it is, it's clear where he is and who he is. He has a verse.
Which song?
He is on Puppet. He's on Puppet. He does the vocals for the chorus. He does the chorus. The one he says, "Did I wait too long?" That's Kanye. That's Kanye. And then he does the chorus after that.
Too long.
Yeah, that's Kanye West.
Oh wow.
And funny enough, it's actually not Tyler's first collab with Kanye. One of my favorite Tyler songs ever is "Smuckers" on the album Cherry Bomb. Great,
I remember that one.
Great hip hop song. It's Kanye, Lil Wayne, and Tyler. One of Kanye's best verses. Tyler, fire. Wayne has
probably,
a great verse.
That was one of the best songs on the album. I remember.
Yeah. Easily. But I mean, and this is from someone who actually loves the album and considers it one of my favorites. But Smuckers is probably the best song on that album. It's fantastic. And what else? And just in general, just in case people don't realize, Tyler is a very out there artist, right? He doesn't do drugs and he doesn't drink. I don't know if that's something that a lot of people know. Ben, I think I know you knew that. Gary, I'm not sure if you knew that. But he doesn't. He
I think it's
partake at
incredible.
all. And he also he doesn't care if his friends that do it or anything like that. But when he's actually recording, he's very strict about that in the recording booth.
That is so funny, man. A long time ago, our first attempt at doing this, well before we even had microphones, we did a a group effort discussing a Kool Keith album, and I said Kool Keith is the Frank Zappa of hip hop, more because of just how prolific, how many projects, and how out there his lyrics are. But that's such a Frank Zappa move that if you're recording in my studio, if you're in this project, you will not drink or do drugs.
There is
those are his rules. He passed away a long time ago, but whenever he had a band, if you were in his band at the time, you were not allowed to drink or do drugs because he felt it got in the way of productivity.
Listen, here
right. per Outcast, right? For that per last time we did a recording session, right? It clouds the signal, right? If you got a signal direct from higher power or God,
right.
channeling your creative force, you don't want to cloud that signal.
There's actually a mini story that was told about this. There's it was 2 years ago, I guess. It was Tyler and A$AP Rocky collab. They collabed a few times. I actually saw them in concert together once. It was fantastic. But they did a song called Potato Salad, and apparently in the recording session, Tyler noticed that one of A$AP's guys, like just one of his friends, lit up a joint. And Tyler went over. I'm going to quote what he said. Tyler actually said this in a magazine. He said, "I went into the room and took the blunt out of somebody's hand, threw it on the ground and stepped on it and said, 'This is a distraction. This needs to stop. We're here to fucking work, not hang out. Fuck that. Clear mind. At least once. Goddamn, we are drug free at night.'" Yeah. That's serious. Wow. Like as a person who partakes still, take a joint out of someone's hand, but that's a good reason to. And I wouldn't be pissed. I would be embarrassed. If I was that guy, I would be apologetic. I'd be like, you know what, you're right. Like, is this your studio time? We got to be professional. And you could tell that in this album. I mean, I think that's been his thing for all his other albums too, because he is straight edge. He surrounds himself with people who aren't, but he himself is. But you could especially tell that with this. I think I consider this almost his masterpiece. Like sort of the same way that I look at when I look at Quentin Tarantino movies. Django Unchained I think my favorite Tarantino movie is probably Pulp Fiction, the classicness and just like it's just pure Tarantino. But I always say Django is his masterpiece, and there's a difference, and I think that's similar to this. I think IGOR is Tyler's masterpiece, even though it might not be my absolute favorite Tyler album. I think it's his masterpiece, and I think part of it is because he was very serious. Like it's really obvious that this guy took this thing serious from the get go, and like just his attention to detail in every little thing. It's painfully obvious.
That's dope.
I have one more thing, but Gary, you were gonna say something?
Nah, man, I was just steady interrupting people. I was gonna say this that this show is me casually commenting while my two very well informed friends talk about music. I'm your Chuck Nice to your Neil Tyson. So
that's great.
I'm happy to be. What I was going to say was this, that, when somebody's on a run that is so many years long of creating great art, that creative process is delicate and precious, right? So I could see why he's like, this is like number 4 or whatever, number 5. I don't know how many albums he's put out before this, something like that in a row. And that delicate balance should not be screwed with. Yeah. I could see why he would get upset at that.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And then the only thing I'll end it on is just in general, the album it's a journey of love, and it's a journey of a very complex love, obviously. So we got to it. It's about ultimately what we all agree, I believe, what we think. It's a man who's in love with another man who himself is trying to get over his ex-girlfriend. It's very very complex. This isn't the first time Tyler has tackled a complex romantic relationship, though. The difference is previously he's done it in songs. So in Wolf, IFHY is one of the best songs in the album. It's an acronym for I Fucking Hate You. But Gary, like that song is a journey in itself of a very tumultuous relationship, and it's very well done. Bars for days, really really good song. And he does it again similarly on Cherry Bomb with the song Fucking Young. Where it's a more delicate subject, but it's basically about him being in love with a girl who is too young for him to date, he recognizes this, and he's telling her, "I love you. I cannot be with you. You're too young for me." And but the way he raps it and the way he tells the story is really interesting. It goes in the theme of Tyler and his just sort of out there-ness. But the point is, it's a story of complex relationships that he's done in songs before, and now he just took that concept and made it into an entire album.
He zoomed in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He took what he was previously doing in 6-minute songs and made it into a 40-minute album.
Love it.
And I thought that was great. I thought he did a really good job of it. He conveyed exactly what he was trying to do, and we're now left with I guess what's next? Like, what's next in this journey of this sort of character?
Good shit, man. So guys, so glad you came and joined us again. I said it at the beginning of the show, and if you're still with us now, I'm sure you've realized we are not a review show. This is not, we don't give it a score. This is music we love. At least one of us really loves an album each time, and we're here to tell you why. So, with that, I hope you give next week's album a spin before you tune in. It is an album that I feel is extremely applicable right now, even though it came out, I believe, either early 2020 or late 2019. What
February,
when?
I think. February.
Okay, it came out this year, but well before these most recent shouts for police reform and the Black Lives Matter movement. Which, by the way, if you're unclear, we all amplify and back and support the Black Lives Matter movement. Change needs to happen, and it starts in our own home and goes from there. Black Lives Matter. But this album that I'm gonna pick is by someone who I believe is the GOAT, greatest rapper of all time. His name is Royce the 5'9". It's his most recent album, The Allegory, and it touches on all of the subject matter that has been discussed on social media and in protest and in the public narrative that's been going on for the past few weeks. And I hope you guys give it a spin. It's incredible. And Royce the 5'9", The Allegory, next week. Can't wait to discuss it with you guys. Big shout out to Red Walrus, our good friend who has generously provided us with interlude, intro, and outro music. Check him out on Bandcamp. Download his music. He's really, really awesome, talented producer.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, buddy. All right, you've been listening to Do It Yourself Music Appreciation. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace. Thanks, Fred.